Hi guys, FLAN was delayed by an hour and 30 minutes, so here we are now with her showcase. She's got an insane name, her kit looks really cool, let's break it down. So first and foremost, if you didn't know, she is a health team-wide imprint fire ranger. Cool, looks amazing, kind of makes sense with the whole, she can't be an ice character because her ice variation is already in the game, and afternoon soak and hot springs, it's fire. Okay, cool. Anyways, as you can see here, she is a Fire Gemini, which is something that is shared by Briarwitch Iceria, and with it, she has 114 base speed, which is pretty cool, and she's got a decent amount of effectiveness and attack. Fantastic. Looks like a very decent amount of stats to begin with. Now, as we move along, before I miss out, actually, she has 18% attack percent, specifically built into her imprint concentration, which means that if she self-imprints or if you have enough copies of her, she'll gain additional attack percent and increase how much damage she does. Now, in terms of her skill 3, that's the first skill that is showcased, and it's pretty cool looking. Number 1, because it is a specific decreased defense for one target only. It is a single target decreased defense for 2 turns, and it increases the CR of all allies by 20%, and whenever you cast it, it is a guaranteed crit. It does also have the benefit of having the Soulburn Ignore ER, and based on what we could tell right now on her kit and what she plays like, this is a skill that you'll have to increase to max because it's going to be one of your damage dealing skills, at least from what we can tell. Now, moving along, we have her skill 2, and actually, let me play the animation because that's pretty cool. We saw this in the preview, but it gets even better with, honestly, with color. Fantastic looking skin, or a fantastic looking animation. In case you didn't see this, by the way, to a Death Dealer Ray that has mitigation, this ended up doing 8.4k HP, which is roughly half of his health. Okay, cool. That's not necessarily going to be the biggest damage dealing ability though, because as you read with her S2, it says at the start of battle, she gains 3 focus, and you can increase the evasion of herself by 50%, and when her focus is 1 or higher, she increases her evasion by an additional 50%. Now, when an ally uses a basic attack, it consumes a focus, triggering a dual attack, and it increases the CR of the caster by 15%. Now, this, of course, is hinging on what the basic attack is and how good it is, but I'll let the clip specifically speak for itself right now and take a look at how much damage this ends up doing. Does take priority, and yes, okay, a couple things you'll probably notice here. Yes, it is Veronica hitting against a deaf broken Sharoon, and as you see here right now, it did end up doing the Veronica itself, I believe, was only going to be doing roughly 7,000 damage, and with the attack buff from FLAN, she ended up dealing roughly about another 12,000, which is pretty good. Now, it is against a defense broken target, but again, as you're seeing from the damage here, it is against a mitigation Aureus target. Now, moving along, we have the S1, which is the most important thing here because we need to actually take a look at what this ability is and if FLAN is actually a damage dealer or if she's a utility character, is she a tank, whatever it is. Her S1 reads that she can attack the enemy with the gun, and I apologize, I'll go back through all the skills so you can read them for yourself. But roughly, what it says is that you can attack the enemy with the gun with a 30% chance to stun. Cool. Kind of annoying, by the way, because she gets dragged along a bunch of times, and this is another ability that always results in a critical hit, which means that she is a very, very stat efficient character. Now, it does read that when it's used on the caster's turn, it uses It's a Whopper instead of Do Not Disturb, and this is just an AoE attack that also guarantees a critical hit, though it cannot trigger a dual attack, but more importantly, keep in mind here, it cannot trigger a counter attack. Pretty impressive, pretty interesting. Now, moving back along, if you take a look at how much damage this actually ends up doing, what they show is the animation of this, and this debunks a little bit of the damage concerns when it comes to FLAN. Take a look at how much damage she does here when she uses her S1, as I move myself over. Only about 6.1k HP, 6.1k damage being done to the Bloodblade Cairn. Apologies. Now, there are a couple things that I want to go over, but before we get to that, we have to talk about the artifact, Dreamlike Holiday. I actually think that this has some consideration for being one of the more interesting artifacts in the game. Now, it does feel a little bit conditional, but just hear me out. What it reads is that when you have it maxed, it increases the critical damage of whoever is holding it by 30%, and it also increases or has a chance to increase the attack of the caster for 1 turn before attacking if the caster attacks when it's not their turn. It can only be activated once per turn, however, which means that it can be stripped, things of this nature. Now, a couple things to know about this artifact is that we are on, I don't even know what character number we are at this point, but if I'm not mistaken, many limiteds at this point just all have the guaranteed or increase or unlock the potential of this FLAN character by getting more imprints of or getting more copies of her artifact. This is a trend that has been the case for pretty much every or most characters now at this point, and Smilegate knows that this is the way that they make their money. I'm not going to knock it. It is what it is. However, the 30% crit damage and the attack increase of the caster by 1 turn does make this kind of interesting for players that, I don't know, want to maybe pair this with a character like perhaps Greenlandy, things like of this nature. I think are kind of interesting specifically with her. And honestly, I think that for what it's worth, I think that this is going to be a more future-proof kind of cheese artifact, especially for cleavers. If you want to use someone like Leica, for instance, where you get to use their S2, maybe there's some potential for this. However, Leica obviously has an attack increase on her S2 instead. Now, again, the potential is there. We'll see how well this ends up working. Maybe there'll be another character that can use this. However, as it stands right now, pretty interesting, pretty cool. Now, in terms of the actual kit that we're being shown, very obviously, in my opinion, FLAN is being showcased as more of a damage dealer. Now, in case you're wondering whether or not she was going to be an effectiveness character, well, it does say specifically that if you want to use her Soulburn here, it's number 1, very interesting because it is an ignore ER that only costs 10 souls. And number 2, it is, of course, a defense break, but not a strip. Now, because there's no buff duration decrease, because there's no defense break or, rather buff duration decrease in general with this skill, you do have to kind of consider that you are going to have to run another defense breaker or another stripper before you pick this character. And with how much damage she's looking to be doing, this is pretty impressive. Now, the thing that's more important than this in terms of being a damage dealer is how easy it is for her to survive. As you guys are seeing right now, it says that at the start of battle, she gains 3 focus. This increases her evasion, and of course, given that she has a 100% chance to dodge whenever she has more than 1 focus, this is really impactful. However, as you understand based on her kit, she reduces the amount of evasion that she gets if she ends up using all these attacks. And if an ally uses a basic skill, it does mean that she becomes more vulnerable. It's an interesting kind of counterplay, in my opinion, but ultimately you guys may also be familiar with the fact that, well, if you end up using a character like Emma-Politis, there's obvious clear counterplay to FLAN specifically. However, it's a reduction of how many she has, which means that even if you do end up using someone like Emma-Politis, it means that you only reduce the amount by half, not the entirety of it, which, in my opinion, is pretty cool. Now, that being said, you do have to consider, number 1, that if you are someone that's going to be using basic attacks a lot, maybe you'd use this character with maybe someone like Conqueror Lilius, maybe use it with someone like Payra, so you can do the S2 into S1. Whatever the case is, I think this is a kind of interesting character, but it does feel very, I guess, kind of hinging on whether or not she's going to be using basic attacks alongside allies. And of course, at the end of the day, it does kind of depend on how much damage she does. Now, I personally can't say how good the damage on this character is because, truth be told, while she is doing meaningful, decent damage against a team like this specifically, you guys might have noticed that we're missing maybe one of the most important characters here, which is, well, where's Harasetti? Where's Senya? Where's Miki? Where's a lot of the more meta characters that we're experiencing a lot of drought against, or we're experiencing a lot of gameplay against? And the answer is, well, they're not here. And the honest truth is that, look, you can maybe run someone like Knockwall and stuff like this on offense to try and deal with some of these characters, but if you are honestly seeing a team like this on right side, you're probably going to use New Moon Luna and one-shot this team anyways. Now, again, that isn't to say that, of course, this FLAN character is bad, but the representation of the damage done by FLAN specifically in this does not look particularly exciting. We do have the Knockwall who, of course, binds everyone, and she ends up defense breaking the Sharoon here. And okay, admittedly, it doesn't look like the Veronica is really going to be doing any damage at all. I must have misspoken. My apologies. For some reason, I saw the first number and I thought it said 7. It looks like she's doing 18,000 damage. I completely take that away. It does look like she's doing a decent amount of damage here. For whatever reason, I thought Veronica would be doing a little bit more. But if she's doing upwards of 18,000 damage, it is pretty significant, especially since it's through Aureus. But we'll have to see exactly what the multiplier of this is. And again, I apologize. A bit of a PSA. I guess I didn't see that right. However, again, what I think is going to be the most important thing about FLAN specifically is going to be how much damage she does and how survivable she is specifically. Even for the FLAN that we're seeing right now, this is an extremely squishy FLAN. And while I do think that 100% evasion is very potent and she has no way of really getting hit, whether or not she's going to be a viable character, again, is likely going to be, again, dependent on whether she is able to actually deal enough damage. 9,000 damage, not the worst in the world, but also whether or not she's going to be able to pair, or whether or not non-skill using basic attack using characters like maybe Knockwall, maybe Veronica, characters like this will actually be able to make a character like, well, FLAN be good. So my initial thoughts are, I think she looks amazing. She looks like she does a decent amount of damage. A lot of the showcase was on a defense broken target, and it's Sharoon. So Sharoon's not the tankiest character in the game. However, it was paired alongside the mitigation of the Ilanov, so it does feel a little bit more serious because it does end up doing a little bit more damage. However, in general, guys, I think this is probably going to be a character that you want to spend your resources on. She looks fantastic. She looks really interesting. I think she'll end up being a character that people will use both in cleave and not in cleave just because she has a load of evasion. The stat saving aspect of her makes her even more insane. And honestly, I don't even know what stats they put into this FLAN or what speed she is. However, not needing crit just makes her a super free stat character. Anyways, that's going to be it for this video. I'm excited for her. We'll see how she pans out. I hope to see her multiplier soon. Anyways, guys, that's going to be it for this video. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you all in the next one. I hope you're as excited for FLAN as I am because she looks amazing. And anyways, that's going to be it for this video. I'll see you all next time. Good night.